So 6 months ago, I flew to Austin, Texas, and I had a great conversation with Tia from Healthy Vegan Mama. Tia was actually one of the first people to join my coaching program back in the day. She crushed it with me. She's since lost over 50 pounds and has absolutely blown up on social media and is now inspiring thousands of others to make healthier choices. Her new course, Plant Based Like a Pro, is out now. We'll talk about that and all the incredible feedback it's getting a little bit later on. But right now, I want to say, deja vu, here we are again. Tia, thank you very much for being here. How are you?
Awesome. I'm good. Thanks for having me. Can't complain. Feeling
Good.
great.
Good. Positive, as always. Charismatic, as always. It's good to have you. I think we're going to have a good discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone running into you for the first time, which won't be many, we've got quite a good overlap of audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just walk us quickly through your health journey so far? Can you summarize it?
Yes. Well, I grew up fad dieting. I'm trying to summarize it so I don't go too far. I just grew up fad dieting my whole life. I grew up in New Orleans with delicious, really high fatty foods, fried foods. And I can say I honestly thought I was being healthy a lot of times. I've always been really into health and wellness, even at an early age. And I that's kind of was my start of dieting, right? Like I
Mm,
became a vegetarian early on. I think I was 11 because I was drawn to a more plant-based diet, but also because even at that age, I realized I was heavier than other girls at 11 and 12. And
mm,
so, I thought I was being healthier being a vegetarian, although I was doing it all wrong. And I just grew up fad dieting. And it wasn't until like my 30s, I'm 43 now. So it wasn't until like my 30s when I got married and got pregnant where I realized like how unhealthy I was and
mm,
came across forks over knives. I was pregnant with my first child and was all gung ho about it. I was like, as soon as I have my son, I am going vegan. And I jumped right into it when he was born. And it was a disaster because I didn't know what I was doing. I was overcomplicating things. I was a new mom. I was overwhelmed and I didn't know how to be a mom. I didn't know how to eat healthy. It was just a lot. And so I struggled for a good decade going back and forth, trying to be vegan, whole food, plant based. I didn't quite understand what that meant either at the time, but
mm.
I spent that whole decade just going back and forth, like, okay, I'm going to be vegan. And then I would fall off the wagon and I would say, oh, it's not sustainable for me. I'm going back to eating meat. And through that decade, I really developed a lot of health issues.
Mm.
And I mean, gosh, at 39, when you and I first talked, that was when I had enough and had a massive gallbladder attack. And instead of having surgery, I decided to figure out how to make eating a whole food plant-based lifestyle work for me and not watch other influencers and people and try to copy what they were doing, right? Because that's what I had tried to do for so long and it didn't work for me. And that's what really helped throw me off the wagon. So yeah, I figured out how to do it for me. And here I am 4.5 years later, 50 pounds
Mm,
down, no real, knock on wood, health issues, and
mm.
feeling better than ever. So yeah, that's my story.
No, it's great to hear. So
Mhm.
there was probably how long since you got interested in vegetarianism? There was a good 20 years of your life, maybe slightly more, where you were hardly eating meat, or periods where you definitely weren't eating meat, and then periods where you were hardly eating meat, presumably, and
Mhm.
kind of flirting. And obviously, that I guess the consciousness grew, but flirting with plant-based diets, your interest in that
Yeah.
grew. You didn't even know, probably, I'm guessing you didn't even know what plant-based diet was. That's kind of an
No.
internet term.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
before, there were this is before all the amazing resources we've now got on YouTube, etc., about this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess the obvious question is, and you might have already answered this, is tipping point then. You're flirting with vegetarianism, flirting with plant-based diets, trying to eat lots of whole foods. Is it the gallbladder attack that makes you go, okay, I've been messing around with this for long enough. I got to go whole hog here. We got to do this.
Yeah. That was really the last straw because I remember I was 35, 36, and had a cholesterol test taken, and they were like, you need to get on the statin. And I was like, at
Right.
36 years old? So
That's
that
crazy.
kind of got me, I know, kind of got me like, I have to do something, but I waited, 3 more years, and the gallbladder attack was, it was the last straw. Because number one, I'm deathly afraid of surgery. Number
Mm,
two, I had so many issues, right? Like high cholesterol. I was pre-diabetic. I
mm,
had painful periods. I became really socially anxious. My hair wouldn't curl anymore. I had mood swings. I mean, I could go on and on. It just was all these things just kind of coming to a head. And then the massive gallbladder attack, which was scary. I don't know if
mm,
you've probably never experienced that, but I'm sure people have. I mean, it
mm,
felt like a heart attack. It was
mm.
really scary. And so
Sorry, how old were you when the gallbladder attack happened then?
39, it was like a month before I contacted you.
Yeah.
So
So it's a couple of years after you got that cholesterol
actually,
test,
probably like, yeah.
sorry.
No, I was saying it was probably like 2 weeks before I contacted you.
Mm.
But
Do you? I mean, I've seen this for years, and we may have touched on this in our last conversation, but I've seen this for years. Health scares, weirdly, understandably, but weirdly, motivate people. It's like you can be in this state of, I'm not putting these words in your mouth, but you can be in almost a state of ignorance. Ignorance is bliss, right? Or denialism about how badly you're actually taking care of your body. And it's only when your physician's like, you need statins, or you have, goodness forbid, we don't want it to come to this, but you have a
yeah.
major issue, that you're like, well, I've got to take action now then.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
Yes, that's
obviously
right.
huge. That was obviously hugely motivating for you.
It was, and I hate to say it, but I think I needed that. I needed that because
Mm,
I was in denial for so long. It's like I knew, but I also just thought I was almost invincible, right? Like, oh well,
mm.
these
I'm
things that you hear
young.
about, yeah,
I'm
they're not going to
young. Yeah.
happen to me. I think the statin thing was a big wake up call because I did think, like, I'm young. Nobody gets on a statin at
Yeah. I mean,
35.
36, that is wild. Yeah.
36. Yeah. So when they
Yeah.
said that, it was like, man, I am not like as
Mm,
invincible as I thought.
mm.
Um,
Well, you've had an incredible turnaround since then.
mhm.
What about your weight? Because
Yeah.
obviously, that, most importantly, is the dying down of the terrible symptoms that you were experiencing in your late 30s, the alleviation of those things. That's the best news, obviously. But you've had a huge change in weight since I first met you. So
Mhm.
are you now at your goal weight, and how much have you lost? Can you talk about just kind of the weight loss component of it since going plant-based?
Yeah. To answer your question, I'm close to my goal weight. I'm not
Mm,
there yet, and that has to do with what happened about a year ago. But yeah, these last 4.5 years, it's been so easy to maintain my weight loss just
mm,
because I'm not restricting myself, right? This is so sustainable for me. So it's been easy. Now, a year ago, as you already know, but a lot of people don't, we remodeled our house and I didn't have a kitchen for 5 months. And so that was honestly so difficult for me to stay away from oil, to not eat out, right? And
mm,
so those things started happening consistently and I gained about 10, 12 pounds. Now
mm.
that's not 50 pounds, right? I'm still proud of myself for not gaining all that weight back, but I don't think I would have, right? This was just a little
No.
bump in the road.
You've
This wasn't
changed too
like,
much. Your
yeah,
behavior and your mindset had changed way too much. But you had
yeah,
a
and
you had a wobble and you had a slip. Goodness
yeah,
forbid you're not perfect. Yeah.
and I think that's normal, right? I think people will at some point in life have some kind of wobble. Something's going to
Mm,
happen. People might not remodel their entire house and not have a kitchen for 5 months, but that just so happened to be my wobble.
mm,
And because I eat in such a healthy way, even adding oil, right, and adding eating out every now and then. I mean, and I would say this probably went on for a year. I say it was
mm,
when we were remodeling, but even when we moved here, I started to do things like that just with the stress. So
mhm,
anyway, my point is, even throughout that whole year, to only gain 10 pounds, I'm
mm,
not unhappy with that.
mm. Well, to be transparent, to be transparent with everyone, because this is so important, because we need to be realistic about this. And as
Mm-hmm.
much as I, on my channel, kind of sell and pitch people this idea of, look, you can do this for life, there's longevity to this. That doesn't mean I don't wobble, doesn't mean you don't wobble. And you said it publicly in our last YouTube interview. You said, I'm not at my goal weight yet, and that does bother me. And I've wobbled lately with this kitchen remodel. You've been so transparent about that online. And so I think it's good for people to hear that. There we go, man. And it's that, look at that beautiful kitchen. It was all worth it, man. I
Beautiful.
know. But, the important thing is you've sorted this out. And we
Mm-hmm.
met whenever we did 6 or so months ago, as I said at the start. Have you lost some weight since then? Do you feel like you're back on track? Have you sorted this out?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it took a little while to get back on track, right? Because I started these bad habits again. I started eating out again, which is something I completely almost stopped. Um, and if I did eat out, right, I was prepared. I would bring something, or I would eat ahead of time. I was prepared for when I went and ate out. But
Mm.
in this instance, I couldn't be prepared because I didn't have a kitchen to prepare anything.
There
So
was no back. The
there
the
was no backup.
actual backup plan was taken
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
So that habit of eating out kind of crept back in. So it took a while, in all honesty, to really mentally let
Get back
that
to your
go again.
routine and your
Yes.
rhythm, and you're a big
Yes.
person. You respond really well to structure and routine. I know
Yeah.
that. So anything that goes on in your life that can threaten those things is obviously going to be a risk. It's obviously going to be disruptive. So, and I think you've lost, correct me if I'm wrong, 6 or 7 pounds then since
Hmm.
we last
Yes.
spoke, since I met
Yes.
you 6 months ago. So you've sorted this out and you've got back to it. And I think you still want to lose a little bit more, right? Which we can delve into another time, but you're well on the way again now. So that must feel great.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, it's good to know that these systems, right, that I have in place, like they
Yeah.
work. They work. And I tell people all the time, like, once you can figure out what your systems are that work for your life, like
Mm,
it's really easy to
mm,
just live this way. So yeah,
mm,
it does feel good to not only lose the weight, right? Because I do
mm,
worry that my health is kind of creeping back up in the bad
mm,
direction. So it not only feels good in that way, but it also feels good to just know, like,
mm.
what I started with all these good things in place, like it really, really does work.
Well,
And
you
it's
you
something
had
that I
so
can
you
do
created.
forever.
Sorry.
No, I'm done. It's just something I can do forever.
You create that foundation for several years, and
Hmm.
and this is really important, and this is what people don't do, is they are inconsistent too soon. They go off track too soon, so they never build the habit, they never go through the behavioral change. You did it for years before this wobble last year.
Yeah.
And so there was only so far you could go wrong. And I know you probably still give yourself a bit of a hard time about it, because I know what you're like, but you had enough good habits there to kind of create this glass ceiling for how off track you could possibly go. And we're talking about over 6 months to a year, as you say, very small slips anyway, from what I understand. It's not like you going out and starting to binge eat again and drink loads of booze, like anything, that you may
Yeah.
well have done in the past. So it was small leaks, basically, wasn't it? Small slips here and
Mhm.
there. I think this is a good lesson. I would say, I would like to think, for people at home. You've had, like, your turnaround in health over the last 5 years has been absolutely incredible. So there is no point zooming in on the 6 months to a year where you wobbled slightly and going, what a disaster, because look at the turnaround overall. And
Mhm.
you've sorted it out now, and you've got some momentum again. So good for you.
Yeah.
Um, we want to know, of course, what sort of foods are responsible for your transformation. You're talking about plant-based diets, of course. That's what we're talking about today, obviously, vegan nutrition. But I want to know particularly, what does a day of eating look like for you nowadays?
Yeah. Well, that changes, right? Because I have my favorites, and I get kind of fixated on them, and we'll just eat them over and over and over
Mm,
again. I would say right now I'm really overnight oats. That seems to always be a big winner for me, or like a tofu scramble. But lately, this week, I'll give you that as an example. This week, I am just eating overnight oats in the morning, like they're going out of style. And then for lunch, I love just like broccoli, chickpeas, in this protein pasta I eat, or
hmm
I'll do rice. It just depends on what I'm feeling like. And
mm,
then for dinner, I've been making I mean, Sunday I made lentil marinara and ate off
Hmm.
that for a couple days, and then last night I made red beans and rice, and I'll eat off that for a couple more days, and that's it,
Mm,
really. So I am a very bean heavy person.
mm,
I I love beans, and I will say I find that for me, beans are the most satiating. They keep me full the longest amount of time out of any other plant food,
hmm.
um, and they are very good for squashing any type of cravings that I have. You
Okay.
know, very, very good at that. And I can't quite say that about a potato or rice. That's me. Now, I know some people will say like a potato is God to them, right? Like it's their
Mm,
everything. But I would say more so beans for me. Like, so
mm.
I eat a lot of beans, you know.
Yeah, you've obviously noticed through testing a
Mhm.
strong association between beans and how full and satisfied you get. And my guess is that's probably the fiber content. It could be other
Yeah.
things too, but that's probably the fiber content. Which,
Mhm.
of course, whole grains, potatoes have very little fiber, lots of other good things, but very little fiber, admittedly. Whole grains have lots of fiber, but beans, they're so packed with fiber, so that doesn't surprise me. But it's great we're
My
talking about
family
being.
doesn't like it so much, but I do.
Well, we're talking about like your diet overall. Then we're talking about. I'm thinking about the food groups here. We've got our whole grains. We've got our beans. We're not therefore afraid of carbohydrates. We've got vegetables. We've got some healthy fat sauce as well. You haven't mentioned on this particular occasion, but I know you like a healthy fat sauce, and you're not scared of those. Like perhaps you might have been in the past, or some corners of the
Mhm.
plant-based world are. So, what about fat sauces for you?
Avocado always, you know,
Yeah,
I love it because it's great for salads, right? If I don't want to use a
yeah.
dressing, I can use a little bit of avocado and mush that around. And tahini is always a big one. I
Tahini.
just watched the
That's in
tahini.
lots of your dressings, right? Tahini.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
love it. But I'll
yeah.
use like a tablespoon at a time, and then just flax seeds and chia seeds,
Yeah,
um, and hemp seeds.
yeah,
But more so, chia seeds are my favorite, like
yeah.
with overnight oats and
Mm.
salads. Well,
So
not salads.
a really nice, balanced, varied plant-based diet. And you talked about sort of being repetitive with it, but over the course of a day or days, there's still different types of vegetables going into your diet, different types of whole grain, and sometimes you'll use the pasta, sometimes you'll use whole grain, sometimes, as you were saying, rice, or sometimes you'll use different kinds of beans. So I think you're probably doing yourself a disservice to say that you're super repetitive. There is variety here, but it's just a nice, balanced
Yeah, yeah.
plant-based
I
diet.
just
Yeah.
mean with the actual meal, right? Like
Yes.
the meal itself.
The
But
meal template, the type of meal, you're like me. It's kind of you'd be happy with the same stuff, like I am, more or less, all the
yeah.
time. Yeah. What do you think the biggest myth about plant-based diets is that
Oh,
you come
just
across?
that you know we don't get enough nutrition, right? Which is
Yeah.
insane because I get more. I get more nutrition, vitamins, protein, iron, calcium than I ever have, which is funny
Yeah.
because I remember getting my first blood test after I had like I wanted to wait, right? When I lost, I think I had lost about 35 pounds, and I got my cholesterol taken, and I had them test my protein and iron, and I compared it to when I was a meat eater, and my protein and iron and my calcium was way higher in a good range,
Mm,
but it was way higher than it was when I ate meat, you know. And so I just think it's really comical, honestly, the comments you hear about, you know, people on a plant-based diet or that are vegan, you know, aren't getting enough
mhm.
nutrients. So, you
It's
know,
really ironic. It's wildly ironic because the depth and the variety of nutrients that you can tap into with a plant-based diet, for me, far exceeds most people's version of an omnivorous diet.
yeah.
So I agree, it's comical. It's really, really ironic. And not that I'm pushing back against anything here, but presumably that blood work, that was blood proteins, which isn't necessarily a sign of your protein consumption.
Yes,
But
yes,
the
no, no, true.
but the point
But
still stands. The point still stands. Like
yeah,
observationally, from what I understand about who you were before, you are actually, ironically, eating more protein now.
hmm,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and I didn't mean like my I should have clarified that. I meant my
No,
blood
but I
pressure and all
understood.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just all so much better, you know,
Mm,
so much
mm,
better. And that's not to
mm,
say every now and then there's not something that's like, oh, you need to eat more of this or whatever, but because nobody's perfect, but just
But that
in
was the case. But
general.
here, the ironic thing is that was the case for you before. You just didn't have the awareness. Your diet 15 years ago was terrible, frankly put, as you
Horrible.
said. Right. But you just didn't have enough awareness to be like, oh, I've got to fix this, or oh, I'm not probably might not be getting that much X
It,
nutrient
it's
right now.
so
You just
funny.
didn't know. Ignorance is bliss.
It's bliss. And when I was eating horribly, you know, it's funny. No one cared that I
About
ate
deficiencies. Yeah.
fast food all the time. No one
Right.
cared. No one said like, "Oh, you better watch that fast." No one said anything. But when I started eating fruits and vegetables, right, and beans and
Yeah.
potatoes, everyone had something to say about it. Everyone.
Yeah. Go
Um,
and eat some of the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet, being plant foods, and then everyone
yeah,
says, "But what about B12? What about this? What about that?"
right.
It's just, yeah. And you're in meat country too, so I'm guessing the protein stigma, Texas. I'm guessing the protein stigma is huge there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's huge. It's huge. But coming to Austin, I mean, I am lucky to live in Austin because
Austin's
it's
different.
a big vegan scene.
Yeah.
So, I feel blessed in that sense. But yeah, there's still people. I mean, we went out to eat with some friends, I would say maybe a month or two ago, and I had met someone I had never met before, and they had found out, what I do. And I mean, the first thing out of his mouth was, well, where do you get your protein? And I was just like, I didn't even want to get in the conversation. I was just like,
Yeah.
I get it from plants, and that
Yeah.
was about it. But yeah, it's funny. But yeah, Texas
And
big meat.
and it's hard, because you're met with that question online every single day. So to have that conversation in person, it is draining. And it's
Mhm.
hard. Like, you have to be empathetic. You have to think, well, people have been charged up and told or perceive for one reason or another. I don't think it's a giant conspiracy, but they've been told that, or they're led to believe that it's hard to get protein without eating meat. And they associate animal products equal protein. Like, in their mind, animal products equal protein. And it's literally that binary and nothing else does. Ironically, they're eating a bunch of foods from plant sources that also give them protein. They just
Right.
don't even know it. They just don't even know it. And so it's hard to stay calm, and you want to speak to people, and you want to answer that question for people, but it's bloody tiring, isn't it? It really is.
Well, it's tired, and I think if it was just he and I could have gotten into it more. But
Yes,
when
but in front of a
so
group.
many
Yeah.
people, it's like I know in my mind, like, do I want to go into this with all these people?
Yes.
I just did
Because then there's
not.
always follow-up questions, right? It's never just
Yes.
that. There's always follow-up questions.
Hmm.
A lot of people have no problem eating well at home because it's a controlled environment. There's still temptation, but it's a bit easier. There's a controlled environment. But how do you handle social gatherings and events? Big question.
Yeah, I number one, I don't think of it as a big deal, right? I think people stress themselves out about those things so much that they immediately start thinking it's impossible, right? So to me, it's not that big of a deal, right? Number
Mm.
one. Number two, I just, let's say a friend like, this is most recent. I would say, again, almost a month ago, we went to a friend's house for game night, and they were having steak and all these things, and that is totally fine with me, right? And I was like, I'm gonna bring a big pasta salad, right? And I used protein pasta because I knew I wouldn't get protein anywhere else. And so and even then, let me say that I don't always use protein pasta because I'm getting
Hmm.
protein throughout the day, so it's not
Sure.
that big of a deal. But I went ahead and used a protein pasta and just threw a bunch of veggies in there, used one of my sauces. It was a huge pasta salad. I brought it and I ate it, and everyone
Mm.
else ate it as a side, and it was
Mm.
amazing, and they
And
loved
you
it.
were fine. You didn't explode. Yeah.
I was fine, right? I was full. I was satisfied. I had fun. So that's just an example of going to someone's house. If I'm going somewhere like a festival, right, or something, because we do that frequently, um, and I know there's not going to be anything for me to eat, I just eat ahead of time, right? Like, I
Hmm.
eat beans and broccoli, things that really fill me up and make me
Mm.
not really crave things.
Yeah.
I'm really aware of that, to eat
You're
things
doing it
that,
tactically. You're thinking, I could be out the house for 5 or 6 hours
yeah,
here. what can I eat now that's going to make sure that I'm not tempted to eat something naughty later on?
Totally. And I'll just eat
Yeah.
it really quick. I'll eat it. I'll put in a bag bananas. I always bring bananas with me because they kind of keep me a little more satisfied. And an apple, and I'm good to go. Like there's really, I feel like I am pretty understanding when I talk to people about things, but when it comes to that, I just feel like there's no excuse. Like you can prepare for these things. You can. We just tell ourselves we can't. And I say that because I did that for so long. I was in denial about things, and I just told myself it was too much. It was too much. I couldn't handle it. It was too difficult, and it's not. It's not at all. Super easy.
Well, it's a chicken or an egg thing, right? It's like maybe we just want the pizza. So it's nice to think, oh, I can't be bothered to meal plan, or it's too much work, or oh, what shall I eat? It's like you darn well know what to eat. Eat something clean and nutritious and healthy whole foods, right? You know what to eat, you know what to do. But it's if you really want the pizza, right, it's easy to rationalize, oh, I don't have time to prepare something, or oh, what shall I eat, as if you have no clue. You very well know. And maybe I sound slightly patronizing or condescending there. People do obviously need options, and if they're very new to this way of eating, perhaps they don't have good meal ideas in their head, or they know what snacks they might be able to take with them. So fair enough in those cases. I think a lot of people know what they should do, but the pizza's more tempting. And then we have to remember as well, people are so used to eating badly at festivals, parties, events. The association is so strong. So I think some people, they just subconsciously, it's not even a conscious decision, but subconsciously, they are going to a party already submitting, already knowing that they're going to eat something badly. And so the very notion that they could actually prepare something ahead of time and eat that before, that is actually, they haven't actually heard that before. That is odd, because they're so used to the association to have birthday cake on someone's birthday is so strong. Sorry to go on, but does that resonate?
No, I'm thinking it totally does resonate, and it's true. And I think that's where the mental and emotional things come in, right? I'm so thankful that I did coaching with you and you helped me work through those things, because I do forget. That is very true. Like we will rationalize things that we really want. And I just don't anymore. And that's why it's so black and white for me, right? It's just,
But perhaps we're making it too simple. We're just like, oh, get on with it, plan, just do something. If you know you're out of the house, eat something now or take something with you. It's not that big a deal.
I don't think.
Like, there's like 80% of me that agrees with that, but there's also 20% that's like, look, if you've got a terrible relationship with food, like we both have in the past, and you are so used to anytime you're out the house eating off track, you're so used to going to a restaurant and picking the worst thing on the menu, that is a difficult habit to break. You are so in that pattern of behavior that it doesn't actually always cross your mind that, no, you could just eat something healthy now. I think people sometimes just need a bit of permission to do that kind of thing.
I think sometimes it's good, though, to hear people say it is that easy.
Yeah.
Because I used to look for a way out, right?
Yes.
I used to look for it. And I think hearing people say things like, oh, in moderation, right? Like I sometimes that would be permission for me to, okay, well, I'm going to go to my friend's house. I'll eat, I won't eat the meat, but I'll eat the dessert, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to stay true to that comment that it is that simple.
Yeah, I think it is. No, I think you're right. In many cases it is. And you don't want to pander to people that don't make it that simple either. I mean, that's Instagram weight loss content now is, you're fine as you are and everything in moderation, and you can still have a lifestyle with junk food and alcohol if you want. Just balance it. It's like, what do we mean by balance, though? It's risky territory, isn't it? So I agree with you. You don't want to pander to excuses. And I certainly know as a coach, sometimes you just need to be really firm with people and say, get on with it. Just darn well plan a good meal before you go. And that's what you're going to do. And put up and shut up. Like, get on with it. That's your fill. You've had your meal. Go to that party and have a glass of kombucha. And, if there's a bit of fruit there, you can pick on that. But you're just going to have to get used to saying no. And it'll be good for you. And it'll be good for you.
Yeah, I think people need that. I think it is so confusing out there. It is so confusing that to have also the confusion of in moderation, right?
it just adds more bad stuff to the pot. And so that's why I just try to keep things so simple and black and white. I really think, and from just the people that reach out to me and talk to me, their issues are always that, right? Like it's just, things are really confusing to them. And so
Overcomplicated, overwhelmed.
overcomplicating.
And I mean, we've gone on tangents. What a surprise, knowing us, what a surprise. We've gone on tangents here. The original question was, you know, a lot of people struggle to eat well at home. What should they do if they go out to parties and whatnot and events? And I think you've given a really good answer. The next question, though, is what if you're the person hosting the event? I suppose that's a bit easier then. But like, for example, it's your child's birthday party. Like, what might you serve in that instance? And what would you eat in that instance?
Yeah, I would again. I would, you know, now I am someone who, if I'm hosting, I'm going to have food that other people eat, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm vegan, I'm not going to have chicken fingers. I'll have chicken, you know, I'll do that. And I'm okay with that. Again, I will also have something for me, and then I'll make me a similar dessert in a healthy way. So I don't feel, you know, sad for myself that I'm not getting to have brownies or anything. Like, I'll make it, and other people are welcome to it, but I'm going to eat that, you know? And so
you'll make a big array of food, and let's say 20 to 30% of it will be compliant with your philosophy and your plan.
Yeah. I'm not going to make anyone's meat food, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll order all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll make me just again, I'll eat ahead of time, right? And then I'll have probably a veggie and fruit tray, right? And then a dessert that I can eat. But I will eat ahead of time, unless there's something I can make, like a pasta salad or something.
And so for the other people, you'd be serving like maybe slightly more processed stuff, like party food or whatever. It's all vegan, right? But you've got your little share of things, let's say, and they're all well. And I think that's the right way to do it. Is, hey, you guys have this too. Frankly, if it was me, I wouldn't even tell anyone, oh, this is the super clean food here. I wouldn't even do that. I'd just put it all out on the table and say, help yourself.
Yeah, well, it's not always vegan. I mean, what I eat is, but like, for instance, my son wants to have his end of school party here at the house. Right. Well, I'm not going to have only vegan stuff, right? Because all of his friends and all of his friends' parents don't eat vegan.
Right.
So I'm not going to make them eat vegan. So yeah, and I'm just mentioning that because I know there's people out there in my situation. So no, I will order stuff for them and I'll just have it on display. But I'll also have vegan stuff, right?
Yes.
So,
and that leads me really nicely into my next question. We were talking about overwhelm a couple of minutes ago. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed when they think about, there's a lot of parents in this position, especially, which you'll certainly resonate with. They get overwhelmed not by trying to eat healthily themselves, but then also balancing that with what the rest of their family is eating. So are there things that you eat that your family will too? This is actually a question from one of my clients. It's a great question.
Yeah, like last night, my red beans and rice. So my son and my husband and I will eat that. He'll eat that. And by the way, my husband will eat anything I eat. But yeah, my son will eat the red beans and rice. And last night, my daughter, like, she won't touch a bean. She won't even honestly look at one. And so I just made her really quick, right? Like, while the red beans were cooking, I just took a pot of water and threw in some ramen noodles and made her ramen really easy. And then we all had a side salad, right? So in the ramen, you know, people don't think, but that ramen, she had 2 little like packets of ramen. I mean, she had 20 grams of protein, you know, and 8 grams of fiber. Like that's a lot.
But you shouldn't be feeding your kids vegan food. Where will they get protein?
Right.
All of that crowd.
And even if I wasn't vegan, she still eats that way, right? She eats hot dogs when she's out, and she eats, she loves bacon, right? So it's not like she's not eating that stuff, but at home, for the most part, I don't have that stuff here, right? And so, yeah, I just keep things, if my family isn't eating what I want to eat, I just make them something simple. Like, we don't all have to have a big, complicated meal to sit down and eat with each other, right? It doesn't have to be that way. Like the other night, my kids and my husband, they all wanted a sandwich. And so they all made a sandwich with
for dinner,
a bag of chips and some salad. Like, and I had a like a Buddha bowl, right? So it was
Yeah.
like, and we all sat together and we had fun, right? We have these little
Yeah.
questions we ask each other, like we're a normal family. You can have
Yeah.
normal family things and all eat different things. So again, I think
But
people
but
get stuck in
in
their
order,
head.
but so, not to put words in your mouth, but this is
No.
so important to summarize for people at home, I think. In order to be able to do that, in order to be able to all sit around a table, and some of you might have slightly different things from one another or very different things from one another, the meals have to be simple enough in the first place.
Yeah.
They have to be. Yeah.
Have to be, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not to say sometimes I don't make, you know, a fancy extravagant meal. There might be like once every 6 months that I do, that I get a little wild
So
hair, right?
often. Yeah.
But I make sure it's something I have time for it, and
Yeah.
I'm not busy that day, and I can throw it in a crock pot or something,
Yeah.
you know. So but for the most part, yeah, if you just simplify your meals and your family's meals,
Yeah.
it can be quick and easy, really quick and easy.
And the other thing I'm hearing is, and obviously your husband's super receptive to plant-based eating,
Mhm.
but just sometimes as we've spoken about in the past, sometimes makes his adjustments to the meal to get the nutrients that he might need. And certainly food volume-wise, he needs a lot more food than you guys anyway. He's tall, he's giant as well, isn't he? So he's feeding, a lot of calories
Always
per day.
hungry. He's
Always hungry. A lot of calories per day required for him. And with your kids, from what I've seen of how you feed them over the years, it looks like they so well at home. So,
Yeah.
and you've obviously found, through feedback and through talking to them and through trying to teach them about how to eat well from a young age, of course, without being forceful with it. It sounds as though overall you do all eat quite similarly at home.
hmm
Overall, is that fair to say?
We do eat similarly. We just aren't usually eating the same things.
Okay.
Right.
So
And
could you give
again,
us an example? Maybe,
yeah.
sorry, you might be about to, but could you give us an example of kind of meals that you can all share, but there might be minor adjustments to? Because I think that will be really helpful to people.
The red beans and rice. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, my daughter won't eat anything really that she's interesting. She's not a fan of what's the word I'm looking for? She doesn't like combining things like grains in like a sauce or beans with grains. She's very separate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So she'll sit down and eat carrots, cucumbers, nuts, and then she'll have some ramen noodles. Like she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want things combining. So it's very difficult with her. She's been like this her whole life. And I'll let her be that way, right? I'm not going to force her to do whatever, because honestly, I feel like we're all made to kind of eat that way, where we have some carrots and stuff like that. But she's never included in like when I say like, oh, we'll all eat that. She really won't eat any of it. So my husband and me and my son will eat, like lentil tacos if I make that.
Okay, so you three will be relatively similar, but sometimes you'll have to make some adjustments or make a fresh meal for your daughter. Okay.
Yeah.
But you've obviously found a way to make it all work, which is the important
Yeah,
point.
and sometimes my son doesn't want to eat what we eat, but again, it's like I'll make him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right, and a salad. They'll eat that. Or and honestly, I'm gonna say this: like some nights, my husband will come home and grill chicken for them and him. And he knows that. And I mention this because I know there are other families out there where the husband and the kids don't eat like the mom. I'm okay with it as long as I don't have to touch it. I don't have to see it or smell it, right? So he goes outside, he grills it, and they eat that. We all share vegetable.
How do you have that conversation?
Well, that's good. That's a good question.
Sorry, T, sorry to do this, but I'm getting quite a lot of feedback since you took your headphones out. I'm just wondering.
You are?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's something. Was there a reason you took them out?
They died.
Well, that's no good then. So, yeah, well, don't worry about it. We'll carry on. I don't think it's terrible, but we'll see at the end. But hopefully
this whole time?
I'm just getting a bit of feedback because now you might be playing the audio through your speakers.
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. Well, it's better now, actually. Maybe that's because I'm talking. Um,
Maybe it's on your end.
so how? No, I can hear it with the echo. But how are doesn't matter. How are how do you have those conversations with loved ones? What's your
Yeah.
obviously we hope that our loved ones are going to be receptive and respectful to our wishes anyway. But how do you say, look, I don't mind you cooking, a bit of meat, but please don't put it on my plate. How do you go about that?
Just like you said, right? Like I mean, this is, gosh, a conversation I had with Jordan 4.5 years ago, but he knew how important this was to me. And he knew because I told him, right? He
Mm,
didn't read my mind. I told him this means everything to me. And for the next 6 months, I can't have these things in the house. I just
mm,
can't. I'm transitioning over. I don't want to be tempted with meat and whatever. So I asked him, if you and the kids want chicken or whatever, like, can you go out? Can y'all go out and eat that? Or can we, can that be outside of the house? And he said yes. Now I know some people won't, but I think it's so important to have those conversations and to explain how important it is to you,
yes.
so
A lot of, this, a lot of people are reluctant. I'm
mhm.
constantly talking to a lot of my clients. They really struggle to tell their loved one, their partner, hey, look, I mean, they don't struggle to say what they're doing, but they really struggle to convey just how much it means to them and that they'd really appreciate if they don't come around waving pizza in their face. People find it really hard to have that conversation.
Yeah.
What's the antidote? Like you say, honesty, um, doing it politely, not building up resentment and shouting at someone and saying, stop doing, you do it nicely in the first place when you really feel something. Anything else we could say in terms of
No.
advice? These conversations are never going to be easy. You just have to get on with it.
Yeah. I mean, but no conversation's really easy when you're living with someone else, right? I mean, and there's something that bothers you. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's just
Kind of
communication.
comes with the territory that it might be a bit
Yeah.
tense, but once you've kind of resolved it, you've got this huge relief. Like, okay, my partner really understands what I'm doing. They get it, and hopefully they're going
Yeah.
to be on my team.
And I think going into it, being open minded is helpful too. I think if
Hmm.
you go into it like, this is what's happening, this is the only option, right? You're going to
Hmm.
be met with some resistance. But I think if you're willing to have these conversations and come up with something that both works for you, then
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah, because you're solution finding. It has to be
Yeah.
collaborative. I want to talk about keeping things simple, which is a huge message of yours. We've already said it a few times here. How do you make this lifestyle simple? Are there any quick sort of cooking or kitchen hacks, meal prep tips that you could share with people
hmm
at home?
Yeah, I think you have to know what your main staple foods are. So, what meals do you like? And I mean, that can start with just sitting down and thinking about, what do you like to eat, right? And then figuring out what foods are in that. If you like potato dishes, then you need to have potatoes all the time. If you like bean dishes, you have to have beans all the time, right? I have a plethora of beans in my pantry, right? And so you have to know which foods to have in your house all the time and never run out of them. And
Yes,
that's
and
not
I've
to say
been in
I
your
run out of
pantry.
stuff, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
just for people at home to know that you really do live this lifestyle. I've been in your pantry. It's heavenly. It's like Willy Wonka, but for healthy food. It's
yeah.
amazing.
And
It's
not
so
everybody has
comprehensive.
that kind of pantry, right? Before we remodeled, I had a cupboard. And that's the case for a lot of people. But the thing is it doesn't have to look like my pantry. You have to make it work for you,
Yeah,
but you do need to know which staple foods to always have
yeah,
and never run out of them. So if you can
yeah,
only fit 3 cans, then always have 3 cans. When you
yeah,
use a can and you have 2 cans, you make sure on that grocery list you add one
yeah.
more can, right?
Yeah, it's
So
like it's got to be an instant refill system. That's how you've
yeah,
got to treat it. It's like, okay, I never want to get to the point where I've only got one can of chickpeas left.
yeah,
If I'm having those every day, we're going to be in trouble.
right. So
Yeah.
I always have those staple foods. I always have nutritional yeast, low sodium soy sauce, and tahini, so I can make a
Hmm.
sauce,
Hmm.
spices, and that's it. My
Hmm.
grains. I always have grains. I can always throw something together in one pot, right, and just
So
let it
you've
simmer.
always got a stocked kitchen, but particularly with items that don't perish, because obviously fresh food's slightly different, which we'll
Right.
come on to in a second. But yeah, what else? Are there any other Any other hacks and tips to make this really simple?
I think that's honestly my big one. I really
What about
do.
frozen foods? I know you.
Oh, well, yes, that kind of falls under the same umbrella with that's my staple foods, right? Like frozen fruits, frozen veggies, canned beans, and frozen rice. Like I always have that stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about the frozen rice thing, because this is so helpful to people, because especially, whole grain brown rice takes quite a while to cook. So, and we don't have frozen rice here. It's very rare that you see it. So tell us about the frozen rice thing.
Yeah, Whole Foods just has it, and actually now I think some other grocery stores here in Texas, at least, it's just cooked rice already frozen. So I just throw it in a pot, right, with the frozen veggies, with the can of beans, and with my sauce, and that's it. But I do.
So that's like what,
say,
5 or 10 minutes cooking time maximum?
That's it. Yeah, really easy. But I do want to say, if you can't find frozen rice, right, like you can take a day. You can take an hour on the weekend, cook some rice, and freeze it yourself, right? So you have frozen rice for the week. You can do that. You can do it with pasta too. Like I've done it with pasta. It's pretty great. You can do like individual portions of pasta and freeze them.
And again, I've seen your freezer. It is chock-a-block. It's full. Your freezer is full. It's huge and it's full, because you understand the value of being in a pinch, of being in situations where maybe you don't have that much fresh produce, so you can just dig into your freezer, of being in moments where you've got to throw something very quickly together because you're really, really hungry. All of these things safeguard you from eating badly. You've set your whole life. Now your kitchen's sorted. You've set your whole kitchen up for success. And I think people should take a leaf out of that book.
Yeah, and not only that, like our grocery bill has gone down tremendously. Number one, because we're not buying a lot of meat and animal products, but also because my weekly grocery list tends to only be fresh produce and like one can of beans and a bag of frozen rice. It's these small things, because I'm keeping things in stock all the time. I'm not making these big grocery hauls where I'm having to stock up on everything.
Yes.
I'm keeping up with it. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you're never getting yourself in a position where you're so low on food provisions that you've got to go out and do some huge haul, like you say. Yeah, it's just controlled. It's thinking ahead. It's bit of planning, bit of preparation. Nothing ridiculous. You're not talking about doing meal prep for 7 days or anything like that, because it's quick recipes.
Yeah,
What about
I can't do the meal prepping
Well,
thing.
I was going to ask though, what about batch cooking? So not the same as meal prep, but do you ever make 2 or 3 servings of something so you've got it for the next couple of days, or do you pretty much make everything fresh?
I would say a lot of times things are fresh and quick, but I will get on those kicks. Like this past week, I made lentil marinara last Sunday and had that for a couple days for me. And then I made the red beans and rice. We all shared that last night, but then when I put it in the container, I said, no one touch this for the rest of the week, right?
It's mine. It's mine.
Like,
it's
don't
mom's.
touch it.
Yeah.
And I make sure to communicate that. Like, I tell my husband, do not eat this. This is for me for dinner for the next 3 days, right? You guys can do what you want, or I can make y'all something, whatever, So, but yeah, I do get on my kicks with the batch cooking.
And this goes back to a couple of questions ago, I know we've moved on, so I don't want to go back to it, but I think this is so important. If you've done that bit of batch cooking, and if you said, guys, look, I'm happy to make you something, but this is mine, don't touch it, that makes it so much easier to then go and make the kids something different, or your husband something different at dinner time, because you've already got yours done. Whereas if you were having to do 2 or 3 separate meals all at one time with your stove, hob, oven on, that's chaos in the kitchen.
Yeah, totally.
And that's where people do get overwhelmed. So bit of planning, bit of forethought, bit of batch cooking, and the overwhelm of preparing different meals for people with different nutrition desires, preferences, that goes away. That gets easier, I think, I would say. You tell me.
I agree.
Yeah. Good. Do you use any store-bought sauces and dressings?
Yeah. I mean, again, I get tahini, low sodium soy sauce, nutritional yeast. I love sriracha. Sometimes I'll get hummus, because there's a lot of oil-free hummuses that are, they say that hummuses? I can find oil-free hummus at some of our grocery stores here. So why make it, right? If I can find it.
Yeah, so convenient. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are typically the sauces that I will get at stores. Unless, I find something that doesn't
Yeah.
have oil in it, low in calories, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to try this. But on the
Usually you buy all those ingredients and then make your own at home. And just for anyone listening who is in the US, Carver, I think it is. I've lost you, Tia. Sorry, folks, bear with me. Let's get Tia back. We may have frozen. Sorry, folks, give me a second. In the middle of my question as well. But how are you all finding this? Let me know in the comments down below. If you have any follow-up questions to this, anything that Tia and I have discussed today, stick them in the comments down below, and I'll be making a pledge to get back to every comment we have under this video. I hope you're finding it all useful. And just whilst Tia sorts things out and comes back to us, or it stops freezing on her end or mine, I'm not sure what it is, but hopefully at least I'm still here. But just whilst we wait for her, banging this drum of simplicity, which she's been doing on her channel for years and years and years. By the way, I'll link her channel and all her social media stuff down below. We're going to talk about her new course shortly. But banging this drum of simplicity as she's been doing, as I would like to think that I've been doing for several years now, but she's certainly more recipe focused with it. I think it is so crucial, because I see a lot of people that mess up when they're overly elaborate with meals, when they follow really complicated recipes. And I mean, the standard vegan cookbook, right, that you see in your local bookstore, you open that thing up and 75, I've seen no data on this is completely anecdotal, but 75% of the recipes in that thing, they've got over 15 ingredients and the cooking time is 45 minutes. It's so over the top, and no wonder people are struggling to stay consistent. And of course, let's be realistic about this. There's all sorts of reasons why people struggle to stay consistent. It's not just this simplicity issue. But I think when you give yourself permission to keep things really, really simple, quick recipes, and use frozen things from time to time, then I think you are giving yourself a much greater chance of being consistent anyway. Hello, welcome back. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
How do we unmute you? Yeah, welcome back.
My phone died.
Ah, bless you. Are we
like
good to go then? Are we on charge? Are we good to go?
No, yeah, I have it charged. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It had such a full charge before, but it just sucked it dry.
It must be something to do with the immense power of the conversation and just how many lives we're changing with this amazing conversation. The phone knew. It's like, whoa, this requires a lot of energy with these two. Yeah. These two nutters, these two fruitcakes. Yeah.
Sorry.
What I was going to ask you is, so you're buying these individual, the hot sauce and the soy sauce and tahini, nutritional yeast, etc., etc. So what do you then make with those? Because you're a big sauce person, and a lot of people love your content for this very reason. I'm always referring my clients and people on my channel to your sauces and dressings, because I've got a few, but yours are amazing. So what are some of your favorite homemade sauces and dressings right now, and where can people find those recipes? Because I'm not expecting you to give us the exact recipes here, but where can people find them?
Honestly, this is a great opportunity for me to promote my Saucy Vegan Mama book, but I'm not going to, because my go-tos are always low sodium soy sauce and nutritional yeast, if I'm being honest. Like, those two things together have this great umami flavor.
Yeah.
Just so good.
But sorry, is that just those two things, or might you add other things to it?
A lot of times just those two things. Sometimes I'll do a little tahini in there too, but it's.
And what would you put that on?
Huh?
What would you put that on? What sort of
Anything.
dishes?
Like I put it on really anything, like chickpeas and rice, pasta. I've had it as a pasta salad sauce. Like, I just think it's so good on everything.
Really? Because to me it sounds very like Asian style, and that it would only work with those dishes, but it works with everything.
I think that the nutritional yeast makes it not Asian-y.
Yes.
Now the tahini and might throw that in a bit, but I just feel like nutritional yeast and soy sauce is such a good base. And then, so what I've been doing lately on this chickpea and broccoli and pasta thing I've been making is I added hummus in there.
Yeah.
And a little maple syrup.
Yeah.
I mean, mind blowing. And
because hummus is really creamy anyway, so it can easily be sort of converted to more dressing style.
Yeah, but it's all about just experimenting, right? Like, I feel like, but that's really what I've been having. I mean, there's a lot of my skip the filet sauce, which is in Saucy Vegan Mama. That is a
Mm,
really, really good one. It is a little bit more on the higher fat content. So
mm,
for weight loss, it's probably not the best. You can still have it, but I wouldn't
mm.
have too much.
But
But
just be mindful. Yeah.
yeah, that's one I love. And
Well, we'll link Saucy V. We'll link it down below your cookbook. That one
so many.
anyway. Yeah, that one anyway. What about quantities for all these things? Because you cover all this stuff in your YouTube videos. Are there any particular YouTube videos people should go to, or should they just browse through your channel and search for
For
sources?
sauces?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a playlist that is
Okay.
just sauces, and that
Just
includes my cheese
sauces.
sauce,
So
just
good.
sauces.
It's
That
what I
includes
need to
my
do. Yeah.
my cheese sauce and stuff like that. So
And
yeah,
your cheese sauce, yeah, I can't believe we haven't discussed that yet, which is a home run, right? That's really popular.
it's so good.
Yeah.
It
So
is
what do you put that on?
the cheese sauce, usually like broccoli, definitely broccoli, any kind of like Mexican dish, right? I love to dip potatoes in it. I like to put it on, on potatoes. My potato waffle I eat. I
Mm.
like to dip that in the cheese sauce, so. But again, it kind of would be good with chickpeas and rice and veggies. Like I feel like it
I
works with
feel like
anything.
I feel like not to be too judgmental because I do some weird food combinations myself. I think everyone's got their own quirks, but it does sound like you kind of combine different cuisines, but fusion style. It obviously works for you. So, and you're
I
right.
do. It works for me, right? Like,
Well, you said it a couple of minutes ago. You said, well, I think it's just about experimenting, right? Or you said
yeah,
something like that. I'm paraphrasing, and you are right. Like you are right. People just need to try a bunch of different sauces and see which one works for them. And you will go through a bunch of recipes that you don't enjoy. No person that produces recipes, there's no cookbook, there's no YouTuber that produces recipes for which you're going to have like a 100% winning rate that every meal you try from that person or that cookbook you enjoy. That never happens.
I mean, it
You,
might be close with me, but I know.
it's so perfect. Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, I think you're right. There's a bit of trial and error involved. So people can go to your channel and I'll link various stuff down below and they can look for your sauces and dressings there and your cheese sauce and whatnot there.
Yeah.
Cool. If you're in a pinch, and you might have already mentioned this throughout our conversation so far anyway, but if you're in a pinch, what is your favorite quick go-to meal right now? What will you make if you're really pressed?
Again, that chickpea and rice and pasta dish. I mean, I cannot stop eating it.
Yeah, I've seen it on your Instagram
On
constantly over the last couple of
Instagram,
weeks, but it's great. It's so simple.
so good.
Well, I mean, what
That's
about pasta? And we've mentioned it a few times. I meant to ask something about it earlier. You're totally okay with pasta then because processed carbs?
yeah. I mean, I'm fine with it, right? Because I
Yeah.
only eat a serving. It's not like I'm eating 3 or 4 servings of it. And I'm just aware that that is a little more calorically dense than, let's say, rice, but it's still pretty low on the calorie density scale.
Yeah.
So I'm not like too concerned with it. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with bread, right? If I eat Ezekiel bread, well, so what? Like I can still, it's not that
Yeah.
big of a deal. But I'm
And I
not
think
eating, tons of bread all day, right? I'll eat 2 slices for breakfast and then the rest of the day I make sure
yeah.
I'll have rice or, something else.
But we're also talking about, even though these foods are processed, we're talking about high fiber options that actually give you a lot of satiation for a few calories. Maybe
Yeah.
not always the same as with a strict whole food, but it's not far off. We're talking about a presumably whole wheat pasta or a bean or a lentil pasta, right? We're not talking about white flour pasta. Is that
No.
right?
Yeah, no, I love brahmi bean pasta right now. You probably can't even get it in the UK, but
I don't know what that is. Brahmi bean. I've never
there's
heard
a
of it.
brahmi bean, okay?
Okay.
And it's a company that sells like these brahmi beans you can snack on, which are pretty good. But they also make a pasta.
Right.
And it's probably the closest thing to white pasta as far as taste and texture goes, but it's loaded with protein and fiber and all that.
I'll have to try it next time I'm there. Yeah. How often do you snack, and what are your favorite healthy snack options? Because we've run through lots of your good meals, but what about the snacks?
I'm not a huge snacker. I
Mm.
never have been since eating a whole food plant-based diet. I think just because I'm full a lot. If I snack, it's always in the evening, right? And it's usually just fruit, and I have my moments where I'm really wanting like chocolate. So I'll make like a little chocolate mug cake, or
Right.
I'll make it part of my meal. I talk about this a lot too. If I'm feeling something, like I can tell you right now, today I'm not really in a sweet mood. I'm just
Okay.
not. Maybe
It's
like
just not what you're
personality
feeling.
wise, but
Oh,
food,
always. Yeah.
food
There's
wise,
enough sugar there. Don't worry.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not really wanting sweet things, but I do have my days where I do. And I know that, right? And I'll say, okay, I don't want fruit for a snack. I'm tired of fruit. I want like chocolate cake. And so I'll have that for dinner.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure to couple that with a lot of vegetables, right? To really fill myself and
Yes.
have like a meal. I'm not just eating.
Because it's kind of a slightly unconventional dinner, but
Yeah.
nutritionally, it's still fine. Yeah.
Right, it's still fine. Sometimes I make a black bean chocolate cake, right? So I'm getting protein. I mean, it's so good. You can't even taste it. But the reason I do that is because I don't want to eat those extra cake calories in addition to my dinner, right?
I
Because I
understand.
know I'm going to do it. I
Yeah.
know I'm going to do it.
Which,
I want
look,
chocolate.
if you were perhaps like me, and this is not me being like, ha ha ha, look at me, but if you were perhaps like me and you were just in a weight maintenance phase after having lost the weight like I am, and you talking about, well, I've still got a little bit more to go, then you probably could relax with, a really healthy, dessert and lots of snacks throughout the day, as long as they were super clean. And that wouldn't take you flying back up the scale. But when you're in a strict intentional weight loss phase, you do need to be mindful with that stuff. So I think
You do, and
you're spot
I
on.
would
Yeah.
add to that too, just from my own experience with maintenance, is I would also make sure to not do it all the time, right?
Mhm.
For me,
Mm.
because it's true, when I was able to have dinner and then chocolate cake after if I
Mm.
wanted, but I wasn't doing it all the time, because if I
Yes, it wasn't
did, then
regular. Yeah.
I'd start gaining weight. So yeah. Um, but yeah, definitely for weight loss, I would make any type of decadent dessert part of a meal. And I'm not someone who wants that a lot, so it's okay for me.
Yes.
But
Uh,
yeah, snacking usually on fruit though.
Snack, so not much, often in the evening. Sorry, not much, but when you do snack, it's usually in the evening. Bit of fruit, and occasionally you'll make something more elaborate, but we want to stress it's a clean food. It's still a
Yeah.
clean, healthy version
I'm
of
not
maybe
going to the
something.
grocery buying vegan chocolate cake, right? It's a
Yeah,
mug cake that takes 50 seconds to
yeah.
make in the microwave.
You're not getting those Whole Foods Market double chocolate vegan cookies that me and George had once or twice in our trip, and we're like, okay, we
Yeah.
can't keep getting these. They're too pungent, they're too powerful. It
Yeah.
takes over. It reminded me of years gone by where I'd just go scarily delicious. Look, I'm going to pour on the compliments here. I'm going to flatter you. And the reason I'm doing this is, one, because it's nice to be nice to you anyway. I'm fond of you, as you know. But also, I think this is so important for people at home. And I wish I could just take this from your brain and install it in people at home watching this. You think ahead, you plan ahead. I'm going back a couple of minutes in the conversation, but you being like, I'll wake up and I'll know I fancy something sweet today, or as is the case today, I don't fancy something sweet. And then you plan what it will be. Okay, I might do a mug cake. I might do sweet potato brownies. You didn't mention those, but as an example, I might do some medjool date nut butter energy balls, something a little bit more rich, still healthy. But you actually plan it. You actually think ahead. Then you build it into your meal. This is exceptional stuff. I said I was going to pour on the compliments. Like, this is amazing. Like, most people don't do this. I wish
Yeah.
they would, but most people don't do this. They are reacting to their cravings in the moment, and it makes them be impulsive. And so when they're walking around the grocery store, it's easy to get the double chocolate cookies, the vegan cookies from
Yeah.
Whole Foods, or it's easy to grab. You are planning ahead. Sorry,
But
that's
I
the end of
think
my speech.
I want to add to that. I think people are so reactive, and I'm saying this from my own experience, because they think they can't have those things. Because they think they can't have those things, they stop themselves. They don't plan because they can't have them. They're thinking that. Then when the craving comes, everything snowballs, right? And that was
Because they're suppressing that
they're
sweet
suppressing
craving.
it, and that's my experience. I used to always think I couldn't have those things. To lose weight or to be healthy, and you absolutely can. You just have to plan. And also, I have recently, no, I'm saying that wrong. In the past, I have not been the best planner. So
Right.
and I'm saying this because I don't want people who are like, oh, I'm not planner, I'll never be like that. I don't want them to feel like they can never be this way, because I used to be a disaster of a person, and it was mostly because I was so confused. I know that
Mm,
now it's
mm.
because I was so confused. Um, but yeah, I honestly, my parents will come visit, and I know my dad can't get over. I know he cannot get over the systems I have in place and the things I do and how organized I am and structured I
Mm,
am. Like, that was
mm,
not my childhood. That was not my
mm,
teens or my 20s
mm.
or even the beginning of my 30s.
So he's
That's,
like, "Who's this girl? Like, what's she become?"
yes.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
know he's so proud of me, but I have completely done a 180, and
yeah,
anybody can.
yes.
You just have to have a little bit of clarity, I think.
If you don't have any clarity, you don't know how to be Sorry, it's not that. I'll say it
Yeah.
again. Scratch that. If you don't have clarity, you don't know what to be organized with, what to be structured with. You have to know exactly the
Mhm.
system that you believe in, the approach to nutrition you believe in. Same applies to exercise too. You have to know, you have to really believe, okay, walking's the thing for me, or I'm going to do a bit of resistance training, or I like CrossFit, or whatever it might be, or I'm going to play tennis for my exercise. Once you've actually decided and picked what you're going to do, you can then build it into your lifestyle. Whereas when
Absolutely.
you're confused, oh, do I have to do the spinning classes to lose weight? Or what about weight training versus cardio? There's some people online that just do walking for weight loss. And then the same is true with food. Is it keto? Is it plant-based? Even under the plant-based umbrella? Is it raw vegan? Is it starch solution? Is it this? Is it nutritarian? You need to pick one lane, and then you can sort your life out. Sorry,
I agree. No, I think that's
not
so
trying to take
true.
over, but
So
yeah.
true.
Did you hit any plateaus? Obviously, I know the answer to this. Did you hit any plateaus during your weight loss journey? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yeah. I did hit plateaus. I think that's normal, and I think it's exciting. I know a lot of people don't, but I think it's exciting because it means, like, I feel like my body is responding, right? It's like, whoa, it knows I'm doing something. So I like to think of it that way.
Mm.
But yeah, to overcome it, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
and
you and I
sorry,
work together.
I hate cutting you off, but this is so important. Just jumping on what you've just said. If you never hit a plateau, it might be a sign that you're being too aggressive with weight loss anyway, because you're just flying down the scale at such a low
Yeah.
calorie amount that you don't hit a plateau. You eventually will hit a standstill, but if you don't have a plateau from month to month, you were probably too aggressive in the first place. Sorry, I had to add that. Sorry.
No, I think that's great. I'm glad you added it. And I'm thinking, so I'm looking around. I always look around when I think.
Well, sorry, I've probably just ruined your train of thought with that, but yeah.
No, what did you ask me? Oh, what did I do when I hit a plateau?
Yes.
So, and you gave me all these ideas, but to maybe take a meal and have a potato meal, right? Instead of beans and rice, maybe make it a potato meal. Still
Make
satisfying,
potato the
filling,
carb
but
source.
yeah, a
Yeah.
little less in calories. Maybe have just for fruit for breakfast. Pick your poison, right? If I'm walking
Mm.
2 miles, walk 3 miles, right? But
Yeah.
the key is to do it consistently, whatever you pick,
Yes.
to see if there's going to be any change. And I think
Yeah.
people struggle with that too, is they'll change something and then they do it for 3 or 4 or 5 days,
Yeah, they don't test it
even
enough.
7 days,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't work, and they throw it out the window and they think that
Yeah.
they're broken or something's
Yes.
wrong, and it's just not the case.
And back to the cookies. And so basically, I think what you're saying, I'm trying to summarize what you're saying there. Many ways to peel an orange, many ways to get through a
Anyway,
plateau. The bottom line is you've got to change that calorie balance somehow. And you can do that via food or via the exercise. But your point is pick your poison, as you say, but actually fairly test it. Actually give it a shot.
yeah,
And then test. See, it's just a testing process. See what breaks your weight through by
yeah.
checking the scales.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
been like that with the weight gain I had with the house remodel.
Yeah.
I mean, to lose 6 pounds, in 6 months is slow.
Mm.
But I did a lot of testing, right? I was at a crazy plateau apparently, and had to do some testing. And so I had to take 2-3 weeks to really try things out. And eventually I figured it out.
Mm.
So I think people throw in the towel way too quick, way too quick.
I totally agree. And as you very, very astutely said, people take plateaus as a sign that they're broken. Oh, well, I won't even bother then. Whereas really, it's just you've probably been in a calorie deficit for a long time. There's some metabolic slowdown happening. Your metabolic rate is adjusting to that new calorie amount, and it's trying to store as much fat as it can for survival reasons. It's a really important thing that you've got that your body's ability to adjust its metabolic rate based on what you're feeding it. It's really important. And also the fact that as you lose weight, you're less of an entity, you're less of a physical mass anyway, so you need fewer calories to maintain. So people, they hit that plateau, they don't do anything, and they think, well, this is it for me then. It's like, no, where's the troubleshooting? You've got to try stuff, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Can we talk about menstrual cycles for a second, which we actually did for a little while in our last one, but very quickly. Did you notice how different parts of your cycle might affect your weight differently? Because this is very important for people at home, I think.
Yes. I would say a good 2 weeks out of the month, I am really holding on to water weight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be so inclined to say a good like 5 to 10 pounds of water weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I didn't learn how to properly weigh myself when I started coaching with you,
Mm-hmm.
I know that is what threw me off so many times when I used to try to lose weight, is because I would have these huge fluctuations and I would just think nothing was working.
Mm-hmm.
But because I learned how to properly weigh myself, I learned my body, and I did learn the cycle that my body goes through with menstruation. And so I retain a lot of water. And then what's funny is that when I actually get my period, I lose a good 3 to 4 pounds, which most people don't. So maybe I'm backwards, but yeah, I learned a lot about that. And I learned that women just fluctuate tremendously.
Yeah, far more so than men. Yeah.
Sure.
If they're menstruating, that is obviously. And the important distinction there is, which you kind of implied, is that you're still losing fat. You know, those 2 or 3 weeks, you're still losing fat, but you won't see it until the excess water's gone.
You won't see it. You know, it's funny. As I'm saying this, I don't know why this popped in my head. Probably because I have a little ADD. But I think that's why a lot of times a wife and a husband can go on the same plan, right? And all of a sudden, after 3 days, a husband drops, or a week, the husband will drop weight and the wife won't. I think it's because the wife is holding on to water, right? And she won't necessarily see that until a couple weeks, you know?
Until
and that
later
usually is
on.
the case. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's definitely possible. I'm sure that happens. It depends on the timing, obviously. Men lose weight faster anyway, so there's obviously that. But
and women
I'm
do
sure,
hold on to more fat. You know, I
but
know that, but
I'm sure what you say is correct. I'm sure, like, if you take a couple and the woman happens to be in PMS, especially a couple of days out from menstruation, you know, she might well be losing a really amazing amount of body fat, an amount of body fat that is, you know, really respectable, a sign of decent progress. Not slow, but she'll be getting on the scale and watching her weight go stay the same, or there's an extra pound every day. It's just water. It's just water. But it's once you are in a weight loss phase and then you go through your cycle a few times, I think that's when you learn, oh, okay. That's when you get confidence that, no, I probably am losing fat right now and I can't always see it. And that feels discouraging. But this happened last month and I still had my big drop, and it happened the month. You need the reference experience of a few successful cycles losing weight, and then you're fine, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's honestly so freeing that I learned that I know myself so well, because if I do get on the scale and I am going through, you know, PMS, or those 2 weeks where I'm holding on weight and I get on the scale and I'm 6 pounds more than I know I am, I kind of get excited in a strange way, because it's almost like,
you are crazy though, but
well, it is, but here's why, hear me out. I'll get on the scale and I'll see that number and I'll go, oh, what am I really though? I'm excited to see what I really am.
It's like mysterious, isn't it? It's like, well, I can't really judge my progress right now. What might it be? Yeah.
Because I know it's not real. I know that's not a real number.
Yes.
And so
you know it's not a fair reflection.
That real number is hidden. And I know I've been working towards a better
Yes.
weight loss. So it's kind of exciting for me.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, you're not totally crazy with that one. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. I think people just get impatient with it. I'm going down memory lane here, and I don't expect you to remember this because it's years ago. But do you remember I made you a little graph?
I
Do you
love
remember?
it.
You know what I'm going to say? I made you
I
a little
still
graph.
use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've now worked with 350. I've coached 350 women to lose weight, and I can very safely and confidently say with you, I talk about menstrual cycles at least 4 or 5 times a day with my clients. It's something I've learned a lot about,
Lucky
obviously, over
you.
the last couple of years. I know. I always joke that there's no other man on the planet that knows as much about menstrual cycles as me. It's really interesting. I'm sure there must be male doctors out there that get this stuff. But what I must say, just to validate what you said a few moments ago, is you are certainly an anomaly in terms of, number one, how much water you retain. Because I see it with all of my female clients that menstruate, obviously, but with you, the amount of water you tend to increase on the scale as a percentage of your overall body weight is much higher than most of my female clients who menstruate. So I think you do, whatever reason, genetically hold a little bit more water than others during PMS, certainly. Number two, the amount of time you hold on to that water is so much more than lots of my other, than I would say the norm that I experience with
Yeah,
my
it
female
sucks.
clients. So I haven't run studies on this or anything, but I'm very confident in saying this, just anecdotally working with whatever it is that, probably nearly actually now 400 women, actually, to be honest, over the last 4 years. You definitely do have very prolonged cycles or phases of your cycle anyway, the luteal phase, mostly PMS, I'm sure. So
I'm just an incredible woman.
that must be it. That's the only answer. You're so special and unique. But what I will ask you, though, the obvious follow-up question to this is, how did you talk about being excited, but earlier on, how did you stay happy, focused, positive, watching your weight increase in the luteal phase, in PMS? How did you stay focused on the game? Maybe we've already answered this. I don't know.
I mean, in all honesty, I think if I didn't have you telling me to just be patient, it probably would have been really difficult. Although I was at a point where I know I had tried so many things, I was willing to just
Ride it out.
give it but I do think I needed someone, right, who knew what they were talking about to just
I think so when someone I've got like this after I worked with you, shortly after actually, I made this kind of menstrual cycle and weight loss guide, and I took a bunch of information from studies and did a bunch of research on this, and I started putting together like charts that I made for you, but charts of water retention, and looked at the data on when you're likely to retain water and that sort of thing, and I put them into nice visual cues in this PDF for lots of my clients. That changed everything for my clients on this particular subject, because they could actually see, okay, at this time of the month, I might be holding up to X amount in terms of ounces of extra fluid. At this point of the month, this is, and that's what I did for you, but I did it kind of bespoke. But I think, not to put words in your mouth, but I think when you see that visual, and when you understand how it actually works, someone explains that to you, or you see a clear picture of it, it's so much easier to just relax and trust the process.
Absolutely, yeah.
Otherwise, it's this big mystery that you don't really understand. Okay, I know, I've heard, I understand that I retain water, but to actually understand the timeline of it, it starts here, and this is when you start releasing the water here. To actually understand that, I think is so helpful. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I do too. I agree. I think that's very helpful.
People understand the value of accountability. It's a buzzword online nowadays, and it is important. It was important for you, I'm sure you'll say. But if they don't know anyone else who eats this way, because it is still quite niche, or even anyone, maybe they don't follow our diet, but maybe anyone that's just trying to be healthy and fit, that's still kind of a rare thing sometimes nowadays, sadly. It can be hard to not feel that sense of accountability, to feel like you're maybe isolated. Nowadays, how do you get accountability? Or do you even have any external accountability nowadays?
Honestly, my social media account is my accountability. If I'm not talking to you, but that's really all the accountability I have. So, and that's why I started Instagram really and YouTube, was because I knew my coaching with you would be done. I mean, I had faith in myself, but I was still a little nervous about it. And so I decided, like, I'm going to post photos of my food every day, and whoever wants to look at it can follow along. And
Yeah.
that's how it all started. So I would say, it's not a bad idea for someone to just start, and I'm not saying you want to become this big YouTuber or whatever. I
Not
didn't
like
have,
you, superstar like you. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of did it once too, but I kind of did. So
Yeah.
it was like, oh, great. But yeah, I mean,
You were
that's how,
fearful. You were fearful. Yeah.
yeah. And that's just how I held myself accountable, and still do.
Mm.
So
Mm.
no one else
No.
is holding me accountable.
Well, I think it's a good answer, and I definitely feel this. I definitely feel like and it's not always healthy, admittedly, but I definitely feel a pressure
Mhm.
that, because I'm sat here, and I know we're in slightly different sort of domains. You're just documenting your stuff, but certainly with advising people on weight loss and being a coach now, and very much putting myself out as, no, I am a coach now, and here's my credentials for that. Here's my track record. Here's my success rate. Here are my testimonials. When you do that, you immediately feel kind of a burden of performance on yourself that, I have to look a certain way as an advocate for this, number one, way of eating, but also, for my livelihood here, to promote, as an extension, veganism. I want to look a certain way. And I think definitely, it's hard to say, because this is what I do and I've done it for years. I don't know what I'd be like if I didn't do this. But I definitely think that has maybe given me an extra 5 or 10%
Oh,
push
for
at
sure.
times to
For
make
sure.
better choices and to keep in really good shape.
Yeah.
Do
It
you
was
feel that
definitely,
too?
in a big part of my thought process when I gained weight with the remodel, because it was like,
Mm,
wow, I have all these people following me. I mean, and even if I had a small amount of people following me, I knew people, and I know people look forward to my posts and what I share.
mm,
And I felt like I got to get myself in check here. Like, I've
mm.
got to get back on this
Because
bus.
I'm
Like,
representing this
yes.
philosophy, this way of eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was so happy that I had Instagram and YouTube and all these other platforms to help keep me accountable,
Mm.
because I'm human and we all falter. And so, anyway, I'm just glad I had
There's
you.
nothing wrong. No, you're not at all. It's really useful. There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with perceived social pressure of looking a certain
Yeah.
way and being a certain way. And of course, there are unrealistic standards out there, and you can easily take this too far. And you don't want to get too lost in what other people think of your body and body image stuff. I get that, but I think the pressure that we can feel from other people can be certainly harnessed for good. The average person at home, they might not want to do what we do with our online stuff. How do they get accountability if they're watching this,
Mhm.
hopefully enjoying this, but they're feeling kind of isolated? By the way, this is a really hard question I'm asking you, and I didn't plan to ask you this, but it's a really tough question. How does someone get accountability if they feel isolated?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's Facebook groups,
Yeah.
that can help hold you accountable. But honestly, I feel like if there's someone in your life that you can share what you're feeling, and just ask them, like, can you
Mm,
check in on me every
yeah.
day and
A
ask,
trusted
what am I eating?
confidant. Yeah.
Yeah, someone who, would really do
Yeah.
those things for you. I think that is something that you could do, but I don't know. I would start a social media page, not to grow, right? Not to
Yes.
grow,
But
just
just to
to hold yourself accountable, because you'll only grow if you try to, right? I feel like,
yeah. Yeah.
so I tried
Yeah,
to.
it doesn't usually happen on accident.
No,
Yeah.
I tried
Um,
to, but
uh,
you know,
and I think with exercise, because we're just talking about food, with the exercise, get a gym buddy, get a running partner, get someone you go on hikes and walks with that will text you. If they haven't seen you for a week, they'll text you and say, "Hey, where are you at, T? What are you doing? Why have you
oh,
not been
absolutely,
coming
and
to
that's
so and
great.
so?" Yeah.
I promise there's someone in your life, right, who wants to eat healthier. They might not want to eat a whole food plant-based diet, but they're trying to get healthier. So just that person, you can
Hmm.
have an accountability text partner that can just say, hey, how's your healthy eating today? And that you bring that up, because I have a step group. It's about 4 of us, and every night we send pictures of our watches. We try.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great. And if I don't send one, I feel like a loser. It's
Yeah.
like,
It works. It's that pressure.
works.
It works. That
So
pressure of
even if
judgment from other people. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a friend who wants to eat the same exact way as you, I'm sure there's someone that wants to be healthy, right?
There's someone health conscious, even if they've got a slightly different approach, 100%,
Yeah.
that would appreciate, you checking in on them, and in return, them checking in on you. We've talked about some amazing stuff that's happened to you here, weight loss, cholesterol, gallbladder, alleviation of various symptoms and whatnot. We spoke a lot. We haven't done it this time, but that's fine. We spoke a lot last time about your hair. Is there anything you hoped would happen on a plant-based lifestyle that actually didn't?
No.
In our that's why it's really simple. It's a really simple answer.
No, yeah.
Because some people, they have delusions of grandeur, or they think XYZ will happen, or they heard that so-and-so YouTuber or so-and-so influencer on Instagram said, follow this diet and this will happen, or this happened to me. And I just wondered if you'd experienced anything like that.
No, I mean, everything I was hoping would happen did.
Yeah. Because we've talked about nutrition so much, what is your current exercise routine? How does that look like? Is it the steps?
Just walking. Yeah, just walking, like 10,000 steps a day. But I am making it a point to be intentional about that, because for a while I was like, oh, let me just hit 10,000 steps a day. I'll do more around the house. I'll make sure I'm washing the clothes to hit steps that way. But I feel like the older I get, I do need to be more intentional with a consistent amount of time throughout the day that I'm doing some kind of activity. So I go walking for like 40 minutes every morning if I can.
Okay.
And, I'm not like, I'm just walking and having fun, listen to a podcast. I love to hike, but still trying to find a good hike.
So it's pretty steady. It's pretty chilled. You're not marching around getting a sweat on or anything like that. It's quite relaxed.
No, and I did it during my weight loss phase, right? I mean, there were times where I would run. I do love to trail run. And if I feel in the moment I want to run, I would just run. So there were moments where I was doing that. But now here, ever since we moved, it's just my neighborhood. I don't want to run in my neighborhood. So, I just walk and enjoy myself.
Can I, just to be clear on this, you lost 50 pounds over the last couple of years, eating lots of carbohydrates, pasta especially, right? Not counting your calories, not doing like crazy amounts of exercise or really intense stuff, just a bit of gentle walking, mostly, some other stuff too, but mostly a bit of gentle walking.
And sometimes you lost 50, I did it.
And sometimes you didn't, yeah.
Sometimes I did it. Yeah.
You've lost over 50 pounds doing that. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, in 10 months, right? Yeah, 10, 11 months, yeah.
So, sorry, what have you done in 10, 11 months?
50 pounds.
10, 11 months?
Mm-hmm.
You've lost me now.
Yeah, I lost those 50 pounds in 10 months. 11
Did you?
Months. Yes.
Because when we worked together, and sorry, that just shocks me, like the timeline. And I know your story, but I'm still like, was it that fast? Really? That's incredible. Because we had, I forget precisely how much you lost with me. Do you remember?
25 pounds.
25 pounds. What was your starting weight? I've got like 198 in my head or
190.
something. Yeah, 190. Yeah.
And I got to 140 probably. Wait, let's see. I started with you like December 3rd, I remember, or 8th, one of those.
Yeah.
And then I think that next summer, around June, July, I was 140.
But the point being, carbs,
Yes.
no count. That's really, and that's faster than I realized with you.
No, I know. And I said, the only reason I said 10, 11 months was because you said over the last couple of years. And so I just want people to know it didn't take me.
The actual timeline, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual
I
timeline,
just
understood.
maintained it.
But yeah, no counting calories, no like cutting out carbs, anything like that. Like there are ironclad rules of weight loss that people really get dogmatic about and they really believe in. And, they believe the carbohydrates have to be low and that you have to do lots of exercise or you must do weight training, etc., etc. And you've broken those rules. How does that feel?
Freeing.
Yeah. Has it destroyed a lot of the limiting beliefs you had in your mind that weight loss can only happen if I do X, Y, and Z? Or
Yeah,
are you not surprised?
it's made it so simple,
Mm,
right? Like this is really just how you lose weight, right?
mm,
You can do honestly any diet you want. It just really depends on how healthy you are, but you have to be consistent and be in a calorie deficit.
mm,
I
mm.
think that's it.
Pretty simple, yeah. And there's many ways to be in a calorie deficit, but
Many ways.
we love this plant-based approach for so many
Yeah.
reasons. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic way to do it and still feel energized and full and satisfied and get an
Be
amazing amount of
healthy. You get
nutrients into
to
your
eat.
body.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like eating this way, I get to eat a lot of food, right?
Yeah,
Like,
the
I'm not
volume.
stuffing myself. I feel like people will hear that and they think like, oh, I can just eat till I'm sick. I don't
Yeah,
eat that
it's not
way.
eat as much as you want. We don't agree with
Right.
that. No. Yeah.
But when I ate, let's say keto or something, or when I used to just eat the standard American diet, like I did find I had to count calories and I had to do those things because the
Yeah.
foods I was eating were so calorie dense.
Yeah.
It was almost impossible to get in a calorie deficit without monitoring it some way.
Yeah.
But
And even the food, not only is the food more calorie dense and therefore you get smaller portions, but because you're not having as many foods from plants, you're not getting the fiber content. So the fullness per calorie, not only are the calories greater, but the fullness per calorie is worse too.
it's worse.
This
Yeah.
double-edged sword. It's really,
And
yeah.
I felt like crap.
There's that too, like an elephant in the room. You
Yeah,
feel terrible
so-
doing it anyway. Yeah. Well, it's been both personally and professionally. God, I'm really milking you with compliments today, aren't I? But I'm really milking the compliments rather today. But personally and professionally, it's been great watching your progress. But tell us about this new course then. I've been watching you talk about it for the last, I don't know, week or two on YouTube, excuse me, on Instagram mostly, and feedback and testimonials. Like they look really, really good because it's easy to just make a digital product online and never show the testimonials, the receipts, and say, oh, I've got the best course in the world. I've got the best book in the world. Well, prove it. Do other people agree? And you're, showing all the screenshots. It looks amazing. But tell us more about it, please.
Yeah. And it was so great too, because I had so much feedback instantly, right? Like in the first couple days. So that was exciting and surprising. But yeah, I started plant-based like a pro because I feel like so many people are just confused, like we've been talking about. And I wanted to share in a online space how I am able and how I was able to transition and stick to a plant-based diet, right? And the things that for me, and I think for most people, are just you have to be doing. And I want to simply lay it out. And so I teach things like about how to find your staple foods and how to make sure you keep foods in stock and how to make a meal really quick and easy. And I go over the basics of a plant-based diet for people who are new to it and kind of still don't really understand it well. We have a Facebook group where I go live every Friday and I answer questions every Friday, but also within the first 30 days. And this is what I really am enjoying and loving is when you sign up for the first 30 days, you can personally ask me any questions that you have, need any kind of like coaching to get you going. And that's awesome. And people are loving that part of it. So not only am I answering questions on Friday in the Facebook group, you can personally reach out to me at any point for 30 days to get any type of motivation, inspiration, answer any questions, tips. So and there's a lot of people who have been confused and stuck on how to just start, right, and keep it going, and they're loving it. So
I love that there's a support element. I love that it's not just the course, but there's also a place to reach out if you have any follow-up questions or that's incredible. Good. Well, I'm glad you're having such good feedback for it. And like I say, the screenshots that I've been seeing, they're so good. And like you say, the speed of feedback as well. Like, someone loves your product when they consume it so quickly that they can give you a testimonial within 24 hours. Like, that's insane. Like, that's amazing. Or they get enough of a feel for it to where they're like, well, I've still got much more of the course to work through, but what I've seen so far, I know this is going to break me through. I know this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, and that's good to say because this course is not only an online course, but it's a 28-day meal plan, right? To get you to get you going in your first month. And the meal
Yes.
plan is different than other meal plans that there are out there, right? I'm really
Yeah.
proud of this one because it's what I practice here at home most of the time. It's what I practiced when I first started eating this way. So it's different than, here's your meals for the day, go get the groceries. And then the next day, here's your meals for this day. You have to get those groceries. It's more of a repetitive type of meal plan.
Yes.
And I teach people how to do that too. So it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like the perfect resource, and I'm sure this is obviously how you've designed it for beginners or for people new to this lifestyle. Is there also some value in it for people that are a little bit more experienced but still need some help, some clarity, some structure?
Yeah, because I'm teaching how to put these systems in place to get people to kind of stay with it and make this sustainable, right? So it's not just for beginners, it is for beginners, but it's also for people who have tried and just they haven't seen success sticking with it.
It's not clicking for them yet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. No, it sounds like an incredible resource. Where can people find it? I will put up the link down below. I suppose that answers the question, but where can people find it?
Down below, or
Down below.
healthyvm.com. You can just click on, I think it's store, and then you can see ebooks and courses. But yeah.
And of course, you've got Saucy Vegan Mama there, and your other cookbooks. And do you still sell the weight loss guide?
I do still sell the weight loss guide. Yep. And I've added like an accountability tracker to that. So people have really been enjoying that.
Brilliant.
And then I have my 10 minutes or less recipe book with over like 100 meals that take 10 minutes or less to make. A lot of them like 5 minutes. So
so that's all at healthyvm.com. Yeah. And
not
where
VM.
can VM, that's what I said. Yeah, sorry. What about oh, sorry, I've only just got the reference. Sorry, miles away. Yeah, filthy. We've talked about everything else today. We talked about menstrual cycles. I can't believe we didn't do bowel movements either. Yeah. Next time we'll have a good conversation about that next time. Yeah. Instagram, YouTube, where can people find you? Again, I'll link it down below, but tell people that I want to
just Healthy Vegan Mama.
Pretty simple. Thank you so much for your time. I think it's going to be really useful to people.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so. I really do.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.